The biggest battle in the whole Cake Island arc continues as Luffy narrowly avoids getting skewered by Katakuri's Mochi-powered drill trident. Greetings fellow One Piece fans, it's time for another review of the One Piece anime series. And the battle with Katakuri continues, and Luffy continues to get his rubber ass handed to him. Luffy's fought against some tough opponents, but I honestly believe Katakuri has got to be the toughest yet, not just because it's the latest arc of the series, but for the fact that Katakuri continues to one-up Luffy in every single way, and even starts to bring out some brand new abilities which could be very devastating and dangerous to Luffy. Even though he is made out of rubber, he can still be stabbed or even cut, and Katakuri employs the use of a weapon which is essentially a giant trident. Now that alone is really not all that special, but when combined with his Mochi molding abilities, he transforms it into a giant destructive drill. The fact that his body is made out of Mochi allows him to sort of wind up his arm, so to speak, transforming this thing into just a giant vortex of death. And while I certainly enjoyed it in the manga version, I'm really loving it here in the anime. Just with the overall speed and impact of everything, the very first time that Katakuri utilizes that technique in this episode, it just looks so freaking awesome and devastating. You actually start to fear for Luffy's life just a little bit. And that's not even counting the fact that before he even decides to bring out this weapon, he gets completely pummeled and destroyed by Katakuri's kicks, using his Willow attack where he makes multiple legs which continuously just stomp on his opponents. How Luffy is even alive after this moment is honestly incredible, and it's a great spectacle as usually Luffy is the one who does this type of pummeling to his opponents, and now he's on the receiving end of all of it. The battle's also just going to continue to intensify because now there's not going to be any more interruptions. Luffy tells everybody on the ship to destroy the mirrors, which they all do with a lot of gusto. This means now it's just Luffy versus Katakuri, mano a mano, rubber versus Mochi, and throughout the entire battle you have a feeling that Luffy is sort of holding back a little bit, considering how long he decides to even use the Red Hawk ability, which he does use against Katakuri, which does absolutely nothing. He just breaks through all of that with his mole trident, and the episode ends with him getting ready to turn him into a Luffy shish kebab. So what's the rundown on this episode of One Piece? While I can see a lot of fans getting annoyed with the fact that this is going to be a pretty long-winded battle, I grew up watching shows like Dragon Ball Z and Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm used to seeing a fight get spanned over the course of 10 or more episodes, and honestly, I'm enjoying Luffy vs. Katakuri a lot more in the anime version than in the manga version. A lot of that is mostly owed to the voice acting and, of course, the amazing color scheme of where they're actually fighting at. The Mirror World, I still think, is one of the greatest backdrops that I've seen for a battle in the series. It can pretty much do anything at once, and that's what sort of makes it a very fun place. That and watching Luffy just get continuously thrown around the place, slamming into mirrors, that combined with just the amazing color scheme makes this a super memorable place. I think every single arc has like a place just like this, and this one is just as unique and maybe one of my favorites from the entire franchise. But basically this entire episode just boils down to Katakuri continuing to beat the ever-living shit out of Luffy, and luckily it is really exciting and high octane and just looks great. They do delve a little bit into Katakuri's backstory and characterization just a little bit by demonstrating that this guy is such a freaking hard ass that he's never once been on his back. He's never slept, he's always sitting in a chair. He literally, as Brule says, looks down on the ground. That's pretty freaking metal. It's hilarious, and this type of thing would be completely laughable in any other anime series, but it's right at home here in One Piece, and again just demonstrates how incredibly scary Katakuri is and how much of a big insurmountable wall he actually is for Luffy to actually overcome. We know eventually he'll start to finally bring out the stops, but in many ways, this is still very much the beginning of their battle. Visually speaking, this was kind of a mixed bag kind of episode, I have to be perfectly honest. There are moments that look really good, but then there are moments where the characters look completely off model. I'm willing to let it go in this episode, if only for the fact that I just had so much fun watching Katakuri destroy everything with his Mochi drill. It was very satisfying to see, and that whole scene where he was kicking Luffy was also just, I think, one of the most devastating beatings that Luffy has ever taken from the entire series, and yet he still manages to have a goofy smile on his face when he warns his friends. There's also the big revelation that Brule reveals that she knows that Luffy and all of his friends are going to be going to Chocolate Island, so she decides tries to tell her brother Perospero, and he's of course going to try and get Big Mom to go there, but she's in a complete fit of rage and cannot be stopped, and suddenly she starts to head to Nuts Island, because why not? If I had a favorite scene from this episode, it was probably when Katakuri actually summoned the trident for the very first time. I like how it sort of slowly melted from under his arm, covered in mochi. He's actually been hiding this thing in his body the entire time. I don't know how that friggin' works, but whatever. The man is made of mochi. He can pretty much mold his body in any way possible. And that's what makes him just such a perfect opponent for Luffy. Luffy's gonna have to come up with some new strategies to take this guy down, because everything that he's ever used before against other villains is not going to work against him. He even uses a Thor elephant gun attack on him, and he basically just gets it completely swallowed up by mochi, allowing Katakuri to just completely wail on him. Man, this battle right here I think is going to be pretty legendary, and so far I'm really enjoying every second of it. Every single time they go away from it, though, I get really annoyed, so I really wish they could focus on the battle just a little bit more. But stay tuned, guys. It's only going to get crazier from here. This episode was a lot of fun. It was action-packed. If you wanted to see more of Luffy versus Katakuri, that's what this episode is all about. I'm giving this episode a 4 out of 5. Super solid stuff. Flawed in some areas of the art department, but otherwise a really great episode of One Piece. But it's time for you guys to sound off in the comments section below. Did any of you guys watch this episode? Tell me what you thought about it in the comments section. Luffy versus Katakuri. Did you guys have a favorite moment? What do you think of his trident weapon? And what do you want to see from the rest of the Whole Cake Island arc? Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you all next time. And as always, stay down now, baby.